the meeting to order. If we'll have the roll call, please.
Donnie Singh,
Here.
Dion Jones, Steve Stratton, Pat Dorr,
Here.
Diane Singer,
Here.
Kimberly Remack, Janice Lewis.
Here.
Okay, our first order of business, I'd like to introduce our newest member, Janice Lewis. So Janice, good to have you on board. And we were just talking, she graduated from Olive Branch High School. So she's a Olive Branch through and through resident, been here a long time. So good to have you on the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Our first order of business, Jim Shumpert retired at the last meeting, so we need to elect a new officer, a vice chairman. So I will just open it up for any motions or discussions on whom you wish to be the vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Dion Jones as vice chair.
All right, we have a motion to nominate Dion Jones. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, we have a second by Ms. Lewis. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? So Dion Jones is now the vice chair. He's not here tonight, so we'll have to let him know about that when he comes back the next meeting. All right, our first item is the consent agenda, and which are usually items that are considered routine and non-controversial. They don't warrant a full staff presentation, but the recommendation is, I think we wish to table this for the February meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I think you have the minutes.
Okay, boy, I'm going too fast. All right, thank you. I guess we need to approve the minutes we received that in your package, so if I'll have a motion, or if there's any corrections to the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Singer to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Singh. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Then the minutes are approved. Okay, now back to the consent agenda. These are items that usually don't require full presentation and non-controversial in nature, but I'm going to read this, and I think the recommendation is to table this for the February 13th, 24 meeting. It's an application for a zoning map amendment submitted by Cal Ham, Focal Point Investments property owner. The request is to rezone 11.54 plus or minus acres from C2 highway commercial to PUD plan unit development, and to adopt the central market project text and development plan for a mixed-use project. The subject property is located between Old Goodman Road and Highway 302 to the north of Morrell Cove. This was tabled to this date at the meeting on December the 12th, and the recommendation is to table to the meeting for February 13th, 2024. Do I have a motion to table this to the February meeting?
I make a motion to table to the
All
February.
right, we have a motion by Ms. Singer to table this. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, we have a second by Ms. Lewis to table to the February 13th meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Then it's carried, and it's tabled now to the February 13th meeting. All right, under new business, we have an application for a preliminary plat for Oak Park Phase 1 submitted by Nick Crooning, Civil Link LLC, on behalf of Mike Bailey, Oak Park LLC property owner. The request is to create 12 commercial lots and 1 common open space from 19.88 plus or minus acres. The subject property is zoned PUD, Planned Unit Development, and is located on the southeast corner of Highway 3 and Hacks Crossroads. We'll have the staff presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a application requesting 12 lots varying from 0.69 to 3.76 acres in size. Where we are approximately is Hacks Cross and 302. That is considered the east side of town per se. This is Legacy Park over here to the east, and then we have some out partial restaurants here along the northwest side of Hacks Cross. So before we get into the entire presentation, the idea here is to cover the one requirement within the project text that was not totally met, and that was to submit a draft covenant, conditions and restrictions, the CCRs, along with Phase 1 preliminary plat, which staff did not receive. Within this presentation, though, we do want to cover this first platting phase. The lots can be developed anywhere from commercial to office, mixed use, any type of buildings that fall within those classifications. Particularly this Phase 1 does hold a convenience store, and so some further conditions will have to be met in order for that to be placed there, and some streets and frontage improvements that will have to be made. Again, within that Phase 1, as we are looking here at our slides, I've got the pointer here at the intersection of Woods Boulevard and 302. Within Phase 1, a convenience store with fuel pumps, a C-store, may be constructed at this intersection, Goodman Road and Woods Boulevard. The master plan specifies that this gas station may only be constructed if there's a traffic light at this intersection and the Board of Zoning Adjustment approves this as a conditional use permit. The BZA determines that all required conditions of this conditional use permit have been met. It's worth noting that it's not good within a transportation planning system to install a traffic light at every intersection along an arterial road. So what I'm getting at there is, and staff had provided within this presentation, is there is a signalized intersection at Hacks and 302 already. Another signalized intersection at, per se, Woods Boulevard and 302. And then another signalized intersection, if we work our way west or east, would be at Polk Lane and 302. So the master plan also depicts the design canopy must be placed behind the retail building. So for your convenience, I've blown up that Phase 1. We can see this fuel station here. That fuel station, again, if the Board of Zoning found that it did meet the conditional permit, would be here at this signalized intersection. The canopy would be placed behind the retail building. The preliminary plat does not change any of these conditions, and as such, they shall remain in effect. So again, talking about a little bit of what was presented to us, the street connections were laid out. There's two primary on Hacks Cross, Woods Boulevard, Silo Drive into Legacy Park, and the provisions will be made to restrict truck access. So within this slide we're looking at here, our gold lines would be our 60-foot public right-of-way. These would need to be landscaped per the project text. Also, they would have medians and turn lanes. Sidewalks would be on either side. The red line here to our right, it's working our way east, is the only 50-foot private right-of-way with no median depicted in this first phase of this plat. So again, we talked about these streets being a 60-foot for the gold and a 50-foot here on the where the laser's at, being highlighted in red. To your bottom left of your slide, I've got a photo of those depicting the private on the left-hand side and the public on the right. You'll see the median in the middle with the sidewalks on either side within your public right-of-way photo, and your private right-of-way, you see that they've got 2 cars can pass, sidewalks on either side, and the roads are aligned with trees. So a beautiful building, Mr. Chairman and Commission, is what this project shows. Beautiful buildings for, again, retail, mixed use to stay in, as far as apartments over top of those. With those comes a lot of architecture, site design, signage, sidewalks, landscaping, and that's what I was getting at with this covenants and restrictions were not provided. These are very important to this entire project. Staff had talked about this project, and we even, sort of kicked around the idea that we don't like to mention, area projects in different cities, but there's a project in the city just beside of us that's, turned out beautiful. And the only way that we get there is holding to some conditions and having restrictions on buildings and signage. So this was an important slide. Again, if you'll note within your report, I do have excerpts of the covenants and restrictions along with some of this architectural and site design requirements. So within that project text that was approved and adopted, signed off by the Board of Aldermen and Mayor, the conditions, covenants, and restrictions and formation of Oak Park Town Center property owners. It is the intent of the developer of the Oak Park Town Center to create CCRs and a POA, and that is to enforce them. CCRs shall include, as we just talked about, architectural and signage standards, address shared parking, private easements. Those are the medians we had spoke about when we talked about our public right-of-ways. Maintenance of common areas. We do have one common open space. If you'll notice, it is common open space 13 on page 1 of 5 of your report. That is where the plat that was submitted to us actually showed the retention pond. So common areas, et cetera, to include the formation of a POA to conduct architectural and signage reviews, own and maintain common areas, collect dues, and collect dues for said maintenance. So the last sentence here is very important. The city shall not accept any application for preliminary plat without draft CCRs being submitted. These were not submitted to us. We went ahead and reviewed what was submitted to us so that we could put together something. We think this is a great project. It's what the Olive Branch really would like to see as we look forward to 10 years into the future. It's a great place for people to gather, shop, and live. So again, I just wanted to note another place that I also found within the project text that they would be submitting these. This was within an excerpt. Again, it's within your report. You can find these. Architectural standards shall be incorporated into the covenants, conditions, and restrictions, which shall be submitted for review with the initial phase 1 application for preliminary plat. And that's where we are today. They submitted an application for preliminary plat phase 1, but they failed to submit the CCRs in accordance with the reviewed and approved project text. So, Mr. Commissioner and Commission, our recommended motion is to table the preliminary plat application for phase 1 until such time that the applicant completes the submittal requirements, including submission of draft covenants, conditions, and restrictions, and subject to the following conditions, which are rather lengthy, but again, number 1 spells it out again, such as, they must submit these to us so that we can actually accept the phase 1 platting, and that goes along with the project text. If you read down through these, some other stuff that is very important within those CCRs, number 4, it talks about the public right-of-way and the preliminary plat being overlaid to the construction plans. We need all of that to match up. This is 5 through 9 of the conditions or requirements we need. Again, we need the preliminary plat to be revised to include dedication language and notes stating the purpose, ownership, and maintenance responsibilities for that common open space, number 13, as I had alluded to earlier. So the only way that we can get this is for this to be re-looked at by the developer and resubmitted to planning staff. Thank you.
Any questions of staff?
I have a question. Could you repeat that point of the traffic signal, Jeremiah?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, let's go back here to, find it here, we'll get the slide noted. All right, so it's slide 8 of 24, and it's in reference to a convenience store with a fuel pump, and it's city ordinance that these convenience stores, that anyone is proposing are located at a signalized, intersection. So, within phase 1, a convenience store with fuel pumps, may be constructed, and they are looking at Goodman Road and Woods Boulevard intersection. So the master plan specifies that this gas station may only be constructed if there is a traffic light at this intersection and the Board of Zoning Adjustment approves a conditional use permit. The Board of Zoning also has to determine that all the required conditions of a conditional use permit have been met. So it's worth noting that this is, again, it's close to another traffic light. It's in between 2 traffic lights, and eventually it's a series of traffic lights along 302. Again, the master plan does depict the canopy in the rear. So that's noted with the yellow circle on your right, and the arrow is pointing to where the overall gas station would be located within phase 1.
Mr. Chairman, if I could point out to Mr. Singh, if you go to your project text that was one of your attachments, if you go to page 10 of the project text, it has a use table on it, and on the use table, there's a note that was added which states that fuel pumps are a conditional use until such time as Woods Boulevard were to be signalized. The site depicting the location of a convenience store with fuel pumps will not be allowed. So that was already established when this project text was adopted. So I think what Jeremiah is referencing is that this really, he can set up a lot for the convenience store, but it really wouldn't be able to become a convenience store until such time that intersection were to be established and also was signalized. And that's per what the Board of Aldermen, approved back in May of last year with respect to this PD, but it also reflects the previous requirements for C-stores that were adopted on a citywide basis.
Okay. And for the infrastructure investment for that signal, would that be placed on the developer, or does that go to MDOT, the city, or how do we split that?
Well, we don't know at this point. There is really no full intersection until such time the road were to be constructed, and then from that point forward, it could be any number of ways that the signal could be funded, but right now it's just an idea, so we're not anywhere near that point.
And the signal is not a requirement for this, in this PUD? Like they can build everything?
It could be built without a signal, but, at some point it would be warranted certainly, but it would be required
Okay,
if there were to be a convenience store with fuel pumps.
okay, gotcha.
Any other questions? If not, we have a recommendation to table this plat application for Phase 1 Oak Park Town Center. Do we have a motion to table this? If not, then we'll go to the public hearing, but do we have a motion to table this recommendation, this application?
I'll make a motion to table it.
We have a
pending staff's
motion.
recommendations.
We have a motion by Mr. Singh to table the preliminary plat application for Phase 1 of the Oak Park Town Center. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second by Ms. Singer. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? And then the motion to table until we receive further information is approved. All right, under new business, item number 2, we have an application for a preliminary plat for Olive Branch RV Park subdivision submitted by Nick Croonan Civil Inc. LLC on behalf of AMG Investment Group LLC, property owner. The request is to create a single commercial lot of 26.04 plus or minus acres. The subject property is zoned PUD Planned Unit Development and is located in the southwest corner of West Sandage Road and Ross Road. So we'll have the staff presentation.
So, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners, before you is a request to consider the preliminary plat for the Olive Branch ROV Park along West Sandwich Road, precisely on the southwest corner of the intersection of West Sandwich Road and Ross Road. The property is currently unplatted. It consists of 3 parcels, basically 1, 2, and 3. This is the plat as proposed. These hatch areas indicate portions of the property that are most likely going to be dedicated to the city with public infrastructure, street improvements such as curb gutter, sidewalks, and road expansion that will be made by the property owner. The Board of Aldermen at its meeting in December of 2022, following a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission, did rezone this property from R2 single-family residential to PUD, plant unit development, precisely for the construction of the Olive Branch ROV Park. This is the preliminary development plan that was approved as part of the project text. As I did indicate, the application before you is to approve the preliminary plat for this property. The developer proposes to construct this in 2 phases. Initially conceptualized in the preliminary development plan, this storage area was going to be in phase 2, but you have a change in this preliminary plat approval. All other infrastructure such as the lake, this lake will be constructed in phase 1. The private trail surrounding that lake will be constructed in phase 1. The patio, all amenities will all be constructed in phase 1. Driveways, or these are really driveways going into the side. These will be 24 feet wide, then narrows down to a 16 feet one-way drive. And then in this area it will be 24 feet 2 ways. All of that will be constructed in phase 1. The rest of the property will be developed in phase 2. So phase 1 will consist of 25 ROV spots, and then the rest, right up to about 83 of them total, will be constructed in phase 2. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat for the Olive Branch ROV Park upon finding that the plat meets all requirements of the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations, or the project text, subject to a number of conditions 1 to 12. Condition number 4, which I want to highlight, indicates that improvements along Sandwich Road, which shall be made by the developer, not the city, shall include the addition of a 12-feet wide lane, curb, gutter, and sidewalks along the frontage of the property on this street. Only curb, gutter, and sidewalks are required along the Ross Road street frontage of the property. A 5-foot grass strip shall be provided between the curb and the sidewalk on both streets. That's basically a subdivision development standard. Condition number 8 specifies that utility lines outside of the public right-of-way, so any utilities that will be laid outside of Sandwich Road and Ross Road, will be privately owned and maintained by the property owner. The water meter shall be located near Ross Road and be accessible outside of any gated area. The project text did call for this property to be gated, and it's important that the water meters be located outside of the gate for easy accessibility by city staff so that the meters can be read when necessary. And finally, this condition was not included in your packet, and I wish to add this condition number 12. A final plat must be approved by the Board of Aldermen and recorded before commencement of the use of the property as an ROV park and or for ROV and boat storage. So what you have in front of you today is a preliminary plat. They will be coming back with a final plat once those public infrastructure improvements have been made. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Any questions of staff?
I have a question. On the, for the storage portion of this project, how do we make sure it's only, is it in the project text that it's only RVs, or are we gonna rely on zoning to make sure that it's only RVs and no trucks can park there?
Yes, the project text specifies that it's only for ROV and boat storage.
Any other questions? Okay.
And it's my understanding that this is a private trail and a private pond strictly for the people who rent the RV space, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? If not, then we'll open the public hearing. Is there someone here to represent the application?
Nicholas Creenan, address 3629 College Road, South Haven, Mississippi. I have nothing else to add unless y'all have questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions? No questions tonight.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll just ask if there's anyone here in favor or opposed to this application and wish to come forward and speak. If not, then the public hearing is closed. I'll now entertain any comments, discussions, or motions from the commissioners.
I make a motion to approve the application based on staff recommendations 1 through 12.
1 through 12. All right, we have a motion by Ms. Singer to approve the application, subject to staff conditions 1 through 12. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second by Ms. Lewis. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Then the motion carries and application is approved. So, all right. And then we have under other business tonight, we're glad to have with us our city attorney, Brian Dye, and he's going to give us a little training. I think he said he was going to talk for 2 hours tonight. Was that what you said?
That's
So,
right.
so
Wait
we